George Washington. His name is synonymous with the birth of the United States of America. But what key events turned this Virginia-born boy into the revered father of his country? This is the story of how George Washington shaped a nation through war, leadership, and vision. Born in 1732 in Westmoreland County, Virginia, was part of a modest plantation family. His father, Augustine Washington, passed away when George was only 11 years old. George was primarily raised by his older half-brother Lawrence. At the age of 16, George began working as a surveyor in the western parts of Virginia, exploring and charting the wilderness. But Washington's true calling wasn't the land, it was the battlefield. His first major opportunity came in 1753, when the governor of Virginia sent him on a dangerous mission to warn the French to withdraw from British-claimed territory in the Ohio Valley. This seemingly simple assignment would change Washington's life and history forever. In 1754, Washington led a small force in what became one of the first battles of the French and Indian War. His troops clashed with French forces at Fort Duquesne, triggering a conflict that would rage for years across North America and Europe. Though Washington's initial engagements were marked by defeat, including the surrender at Fort Necessity, he earned valuable experience and recognition. Despite the early setbacks, Washington's bravery during the war earned him a reputation as a resilient leader. His knowledge of the British military and the harsh realities of colonial warfare also planted the seeds of his eventual disillusionment with British rule. By 1763, the war ended, but tensions between the American colonies and Britain were only beginning to rise. By the 1770s, Washington had become a prominent figure in Virginia society. He served in the House of Burgesses, ran his estate at Mount Vernon, and married the wealthy widow Martha Custis. However, British taxation policies, such as the Stamp Act and the Townshend Acts, ignited colonial unrest. Washington, like many others, grew increasingly frustrated with British overreach. In 1775, after hostilities erupted at Lexington and Concord, the Second Continental Congress appointed Washington Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. His task was daunting. The American forces were undisciplined, poorly supplied, and no match for the British military machine. But Washington was determined to lead. Washington's first years as commander were fraught with challenges, including devastating defeats in New York and the British occupation of Philadelphia. One of the most iconic moments of Washington's military career came on the freezing night of December 25, 1776. With this bold move reinvigorated the American cause. Washington's leadership turned the tide, and the victory at Trenton was followed by success at the Battle of Princeton. Over the next few years, Washington endured both triumphs and hardships, including the grueling winter at Valley Forge, where his leadership and determination held the army together. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, officially ending the war and granting the United States its independence. Washington retired to Mount Vernon, hoping to return to his life as a farmer. But peace was fleeting. The fledgling nation struggled under the weak Articles of Confederation, and in 1787, Washington was called upon once again to lead, this time presiding over the Constitutional Convention. With his steady guidance, the delegates crafted the U.S. Constitution, establishing a framework for the new government. In 1789, the American people unanimously elected George Washington as their first president. Washington was reluctant. He accepted the role, believing it was his duty. As president, Washington set numerous precedents. He formed the first presidential cabinet, consisting of figures like Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, and helped establish key institutions that would define the government for years to come. Washington's presidency was not without challenges. In 1794, he faced the Whiskey Rebellion, a domestic uprising against federal taxes. Washington personally led federal troops to quell the rebellion, demonstrating the power of the new government to enforce its laws. After 2 terms in office, Washington chose to step down, establishing the tradition of peaceful transfer of power. His farewell address warned of the dangers of political parties and entangling foreign alliances, words that still resonate with Americans today. Washington retired once again to Mount Vernon, hoping to enjoy a quiet life. However, just 2 years after leaving the presidency, Washington fell ill and passed away on December 14, 1799, at the age of 67. The nation mourned deeply for its first president. George Washington's legacy lives on in the monuments, currency, and even the capital city, named in his honor. More importantly, his vision, leadership, and humility laid the foundation for the democratic ideals that define the United States today.